All right, in this lesson, we're going to create our first model class. So let's go to the Store app and open the Models module. Now on the top, we have an import statement from Django.db, which is a package. We're importing the Models module. In this module, we have a bunch of useful classes that you're going to learn about as we go through this section. So over here, we're going to create our first model class. So we define a new class called Product and have it inherit the model class in Django. That class is defined in the Models module. So models.model. Now here we need to define the fields of this class. What fields do we need here? Well, every product needs a title. So we set title to. Then we go to the Models module. Now here we need to choose a field type. So let's take a break here. Now here on Google, let's search for Django field types. Okay, here's the model field reference. We're going to get back to this page over and over. So on the right side, over here, you can see all the built-in field types. For example, we have Boolean field for storing Boolean values. We have char field for storing a sequence of characters, or more accurately, short or medium-sized strings. We have date field, datetime field, decimal field, and so on. So as we go through this section, you're going to become familiar with these field types. So back to our code. We want the title to be an instance of the char field class. Now, all these field types have a bunch of options. So back to our documentation on the top, look over here, field options. These options are common to all field types. For example, using null, we can determine if a field is nullable or not. We also have DB index. With this, we can create a database index on this field. We can also set the default value and so on. So all these options are available to all field types. Now, some field types, depending on their type, have extra options. So let's scroll down and find the char field. Okay, now read over here. Char field has two extra arguments. We have max length, which is required, and DB collation, which is optional. So using max length, we can specify the maximum number of characters we can store in this field. So here we're going to set max length to, let's say, 255 characters. So this is our first field. Now in the next section where we talk about migrations, you will see that we can generate our database tables based on the definition of this model. So then we're going to have a table called product, and in that table, we're going to have a column called title, and the type of that column is going to be varchar of 255. For now, let's not worry about this. So that's our first field. What else do we need here? We need a description. That description can be a long text. So instead of a char field, we're going to use a text field. Okay. The text field doesn't have any required arguments. So here we don't have to set the max length. Okay. What else? Next, we need to add the price field. For this, I'm going to use decimal field. Always use decimal field for monetary values. We also have float field, but floats have rounding issues. So for storing monetary values, we should always use decimal field. Now, decimal field, if you look at the documentation, has two required arguments. So as an example, let's say the maximum price we support in this system is going to be 999.99. I'm just making this up. So how many digits do we have here? 6 digits. How many digits do we have after the decimal point? 2 digits. We need to specify these values as arguments here. So max digits equals 6 and decimal places equals 2. These two arguments are always required for decimal fields. Okay. Now let's remove the comment. Another field is inventory. We can set this to an integer field. We also have positive integer, we have small integer, big integer, and so on. And the last field I'm going to define here is last update. Let's say every time we update this product, we want to store the current date time here. So we're going to set this to models.datetime field. And optionally, we can set auto underline now to true. That means every time we update a product object, Django automatically stores the current date time in this field. We also have auto now underline add. With this, only the first time we create a product object, Django stores the current date time here. Okay, so we don't want this. We're done with the definition of the product class. Now a little exercise for you. I want you to create the customer class with these fields: first name, last name, email, which should be unique, phone, and birth date, which should be nullable. So we'll spend a couple of minutes on this and then come back to see my solution. All right, here's my implementation of the customer class. So first and last name fields, these are both char fields with a maximum length of 255 characters. Next, we have email, which is an instance of the email field. And here I've set unique to true, so we don't end up with duplicate emails. Next, we have phone, which is also a char field with a max length of 255 characters. And finally, we have birth date, which is an instance of date field. And here I've set null to true, so this field is nullable. Now for birth date, I've used a date field, not a date time field, because we don't care about the time someone was born, okay? Now you might be curious why we don't have an ID field in any of these classes. Because as I said earlier, Django creates it for us automatically. So every entity or every model class is going to have an ID field that is going to be a primary key. But what if we don't want to have an ID field? What if in this product class, we need a field called SKU, and this is going to be our primary key. So we can set this to, let's say, a char field with a max length of, let's say, 10 characters. Now here we can set primary key to true. With this, Django is not going to create an ID field and make it the primary key. So SKU is going to be our primary key, okay? So since we don't need this field for now, I'm going to remove it. Good. So this is how we create model classes. Next, we're going to talk about choice fields.